Hello and welcome to the Serra High School podcast. I'm here joined with Chief Advancement Officer Mike Fadelli once again. Thank you for being here.
Always good to be back on the podcast.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
We're very happy. Well, today we thought we'd bring you back. We're going to try to bring you, have you make your guest appearance on frequent episodes of our podcast, of course. You have so much to say, but today I thought it would be a great moment for us to kind of recap our very, very successful Fund to Dream effort, which was on March 12th, I guess it was 2 Saturdays ago.
Correct.
Why don't you tell us about the night? It was so enjoyable from my vantage point.
I mean, what an evening. Just a great way for the Serra community to come together. It was the first night that you didn't have to wear a mask, which was, I think a lot of people were excited about. So, but the community just wanted a chance and an opportunity to celebrate. We had amazing speakers. We can talk about that in depth a little bit later, but to me, just a fantastic community-oriented event. We had over 400 people in attendance, and was so happy at the end of the night when not only with the money that we raised, but just the opportunity for the community and parents and alumni to be together and celebrate what Serra's all about.
Awesome. For those that don't know, the Fund to Dream event is our most aggressive tuition assistance fundraiser that we have all year. This year, like you said, it was live, which was for the first time in 2 years, which was awesome. We had 2 virtual events that were, wildly successful as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this year we were able to really, bring people together and bring speakers together, and we had a wonderful lineup. I want to talk about the speakers. I first would like to just announce the success rate. We made how much money?
Well, right now we're at 1.2 million and counting. We're still receiving donations. We were able to put the event online, so people who weren't able to attend, we did live stream it, but we also have it online for people to go back and take a look at it. And again, I think it's such an inspiring piece with our speakers, our student speakers, Father Joe and Patrick, that I think it's the type of thing that people are going to continue to give. But 1.2 million at this point in time and growing, I won't say by far, but it is our most successful Fund to Dream that we've ever had here in terms of money that's been raised. In 2019, we had Tom Brady Sr., who was determined to beat his son's record of $800,000. We actually went slightly over $1 million, but then when all is said and done, we ended up a little bit under.
Okay.
This was not by far, but this was one of our most successful Fund to Dreams, revenue-wise, for sure.
That's great. I mean, that speaks volumes to our supportive community, being that, like you said, the money goes directly to tuition assistance to any qualified Padre that might not be able to afford the tuition, right? So that's an enormous amount. So I'm really excited to say that.
And those numbers continue to grow. I think the number right now is 42%. And as a matter of fact, right now we're in the admission season and we're going through that process of acceptances and there's a lot of requests for tuition assistance. So when we can raise this type of money, it does give us the opportunity to help those families and especially those boys. And you heard it in Jet's story. He wanted to be a Serra Padre. And because of tuition assistance was able to do that, and he's a tremendous success with a very, very bright future ahead of him. So I'm really excited about the fact that this can be an event that continues to grow because the need continues to grow.
Right, and 42%. That's a big number.
It's a big number.
Very proud that our school supports that many, that large percentage of our students, and like you said, that's going to continue to grow. Our student speakers, so for the first time ever this year, we had current students that were actually telling their story, and I thought that was just extremely powerful. Ryan Mahe, who was also a football captain and an excellent example of a classic student athlete at Serra, huge leader. He actually opened the night. He lifted his football helmet. He got the crowd going. That was really exciting. And he ended the night as well. Why don't you talk a little bit about the response that we received from that?
I mean, Ryan is one of my favorite people. Being involved in the football program and being such a supporter of that program. I've gotten to know a lot of the boys, and, Ryan helped us out last year in our virtual Fund to Dream, and he's just the type of kid, you ask him to do something, and he says absolutely. And so to have him kick off the evening and share his excitement about being involved and to thank people for being here at the event was just a great way to do it. And then, I kind of teased it and said, you're going to hear from Ryan later on in the program. And to have him finish with his thank you song I know that the tears were flowing for sure that evening.
Certainly. That is for those of you listening, that is worth a listen. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're not going to watch the video for anything, but that was pretty impressive. And he actually, like, I loved that he came up, and asked if he could say a few extra words, just kind of ad lib a little bit. And I think that it just showed how moved he was, after hearing, everyone else's story. So it started off with Ryan. It then went to you and Barry, and of course, Father Nick for a blessing. And then we had Patrick Walsh first, and then Father Joe, and then, of course, Jet, who's also a current student with an amazing story as well.
Right. Jet's another young man who I've watched his progress. Now, this is the start of my 4th year in my role, so these seniors were freshmen. And, he's the type of kid, you see him walking through the halls, he's got a smile on his face, he's always been involved in student government. I've seen him on the basketball court. Another just great example of what a Padre is. And, when we approached him about this, because as you said, this is the first time we've actually had a current student be a speaker. And so, it can be a sensitive subject for a lot of people. But when we talked to Jet, he's like, yeah. And I said, make sure you talk to your mom and dad. And he did. And he came back. And, as he created his speech and he practiced with us, I mean, it brought me to tears even when he had half of it done. Right. He's just an amazing young man. And I think, the piece where he showed the acceptance card that Coach Walsh had presented him after interviewing him, it was so moving. It tied the whole evening together, and it was just, his story is an amazing story. And I look forward to seeing what he's going to do after Serra, because he's got such a bright future ahead of him. But the experiences that he had at Serra High School were certainly things that helped him get to where he is now. So.
Definitely. I mean, and that goes for Ryan, too, who I think is headed to Utah next year.
Yeah, which was surprising. He was at my table, and, there was some talk that he was going to go play football at Foothill or De Anza, one of those schools. And then I was talking to him, and he said, yeah, I'm going to go to Utah. And I'm like, that's awesome, man. I'm really, really excited for you. And, there's another Serra alum, Luke Batari, who was sitting one table over from us, who's also at Utah. So he's going to have some family there, which will be nice.
That's great.
I think the future's bright for both those boys. There's
definitely.
No question about it.
And Jet hasn't declared where he's going yet.
But a lot of opportunities, a lot of options. I think he said UCLA, UC Davis. I mean, all the UCs. I mean, wherever. He's probably going to have his choice of what college he gets to go to moving forward.
That's great. That's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about Father Joe and what he represented. We did have him on the podcast with Patrick Walsh, which was amazing, just as a kind of a prelude to the event. And he had announced at that point that I was unaware, and he did talk about it that night, that he actually was a recipient of tuition assistance prior to the Funded Dream. Obviously, he's class of 73. Yeah. But I thought that was also kind of powerful as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, Father Joe was somebody that I identified to be a speaker early on, and I think it was after the 2019 Funded Dream that I had approached him and said, hey, we'd love for you to be involved in a bigger way. Unfortunately, 2020 was canceled, 2021 was canceled, and I told him, I said, I really want to save you for when you can be live. I don't want it to be a recorded piece. I want you to be in front of an audience. And so, every year he'd come into my office and sit down, and he'd tell me, Mike, I'm ready. I can't wait for the next Funded Dream. And unfortunately, I had to tell him, well, we're not doing it live in 2021. And then there was some question of whether we were going to do it live in 2022. I mean, up until about a month and a half ago, we didn't know. We were running parallel paths. And I'm just so thankful that we had the opportunity to have Father Joe. He's such an amazing individual. The stories that he shared, the fact that he was a tuition recipient, I did not know that. That was something that he kept to himself but was able to share that night. But just his message is so powerful, and he represents what a Padre is all about in so many ways.
100%. And just a funny, side note was, I mean, how many times did Father Joe come in when we were going, are we going to have the event? Are we not? And he had a new speech every time. I mean, he has so much to give in terms of his stories and the way that he connects with the audience and just the meaning behind it all is just really special.
He's just a special man, and he means so much to me, and what he's done for my two boys, and Matthew, who's a freshman in college and played football here, got to experience that, and Andrew, who's a freshman, has got to experience that so far, and it's something that words can't describe what Patrick and Father Joe do. And I said when I came up I don't know if I said this, but I meant to say this at the end, but Ryan Mahe stole the show at the end. So, Patrick and Father Joe, 21 years together. I mean, there's no better winning combination out there, in my opinion. And it's not about how many games you win or lose. It's about what they teach those young men. And I'm so proud that my boys get to experience, what Serra football is and the mentorship of Coach Walsh and certainly the leadership of Father Joe.
I could not agree more. I mean, I feel the same way with my son and with just the countless Padres that whose lives have been touched by it. I think that these football boys are very lucky because it's so much more than just football.
Absolutely.
Even though they learn a ton about football. And I couldn't agree with you more. So next year's event, hopefully, is let's hope it stays live.
Yeah.
I mean, we never know.
We have it on the calendar. It's Saturday, March 18th. So we have a date, and we'll start, believe it or not, planning for that. Immediately. We have to find our next great speaker, and then we have to find out, who we want to have as our student speaker. I love the fact that we did have a student speaker. I think it really brought it home. But there are a lot of great stories out there. And so part of our job now moving forward is to find those next great speakers to make next year's event even better than this year's event.
Fantastic. Well, I applaud your efforts. Your team did amazing. I mean, there was so much to enjoy, the centerpieces, the event, the planning of the event, and the donations, the camaraderie, the community. It was all just, it was wonderful. I had a great time myself, and I know that I've heard the chatter on the block is that everybody else had a really good time.
Yeah, I mean, part of that event is just going around to every table, making sure people are having a good time. And, the feedback that I got that evening it was awesome. They just were so happy to be out. But you brought up a good point. I mean, this does not happen without the hard work of a team. And the advancement department is made up of a number of different people. You, Rosie, included Lisa Callaghy, Teresa Stoy, our alumni director, Logan Wolf. I know I'm missing somebody.
Jen Muncy,
Barry Thornton,
Teresa Stoy.
Yeah, it's a group effort, and we can't get
Fadelli.
We can't get this done with just one or two people. It's a group effort. But the other thing is we had some amazing people who donated their time and services. Rosanna Weeks, the centerpieces. Christy Luzzo, she was also part of that. The wine was donated by K&L Wine, Clyde Beffa, class of 64, and then his son Trey, class of 92. So again, it's a community. Community comes together to make. John Hayward, who donated his time, and John Hansen, who donated the tequila and the vodka. Again, the list goes on and on and on, but this event is successful because it is a team effort. And again, we talked about football, and it's about a team. There's no I in any of this. Right. It's all about the team, and that's what makes Serra so special, in my opinion.
Well, that's also, since we're giving shout-outs, Joe Murphy organized the amazing music as we entered, and then we also had the Fathers Club was working tirelessly to keep those drinks full. Yeah. And, the cleanup, there were a ton of student volunteers as well that were clearing tables and just really helping the catering staff. Espostos was amazing. They always do great work, but the food was hot and it was on everyone's table, and it's hard to feed 400.
Again, it's a team effort. There's so many people that I could thank for this, but we can't do it without the support of the entire community, and the entire community stepped up for sure.
Awesome, and it's just so great to see how many people come back to either to help or to join. So wonderful. Well, I like I said, I want to applaud you and your team, and I also just, I should mention that this is admission season, right? We sent out our acceptance letters on Friday. And because of the efforts of you and the community at Serra, there's a lot more people that are going to be able to say, yes, I want to be a Padre as a result of what you've done. So thank you.
I'm hopeful. And that's the reason why we do the things that we do here, is because we want boys to come here and want to experience the things that I get to experience, that your brother got to experience, that so many people before these current Padres who are hopefully going to come in will get to experience. So, anything our department can do to make that effort better, all for it. So I'm looking forward to seeing, I have seen some people who have worn their Serra hats and their Serra sweatshirts, when they got the acceptance letters on Friday, or the acceptance emails on Friday and the letters on Saturday. So I'm excited about this class of 2026 to continue, the tradition of great Padre classes coming here to Serra High School.
Awesome. Me too. Well, we'll end on a high note there. Thank you for your time today.
Thank
and
you.
Go Padres.
Go Padres.